8 minutes and 41 seconds. That is how long it took for Senator John Kennedy to corner Kash Patel with evidence that 437 boxes of Epstein files vanished from DOJ custody while Patel was the official responsible for evidence integrity. Watch Patel offer 4 different explanations that contradicted each other and finally force him to admit he has no idea where the files are or who took them. Not a minor paperwork discrepancy. Not a filing error. 437 archive boxes containing original documents, photographs, video recordings, and financial records that were cataloged, inventoried, and secured under federal chain of custody protocols until the exact week a federal judge ordered them unsealed, at which point they disappeared completely. Watch what happens when Kennedy asks Patel to explain the inventory gap. Watch Patel's face when Kennedy reads the dates the files were last verified versus when they were reported missing. Watch him blame storage contractors, clerical errors, and database issues, and watch Kennedy systematically destroy every excuse with documentation that proves Patel knew the files were missing, did nothing about it, and told no one for 8 months. And watch 8 minutes and 41 seconds of a man who claimed to be the ultimate government accountability advocate get exposed as the person who presided over the largest evidence destruction in DOJ history. You need to see this from the beginning because what happened in that hearing room is not about lost paperwork. It is about obstruction, deliberate, documented, systematic obstruction of justice on a scale so massive that it can only be intentional. If you are new here, subscribe right now because what you're about to see is Senator Kennedy methodically proving that evidence disappeared, Patel knew it disappeared, and someone made sure it stayed disappeared. Let me set the scene for you. Senate Judiciary Committee, Hart Building Room 216, the same chamber where attorneys general have been confirmed and destroyed. Wednesday afternoon, the hearing was scheduled as routine oversight of DOJ records management procedures. Routine. By the time Kennedy finished questioning Patel, the word routine would never apply to DOJ evidence handling again. Patel arrived at 1 p.m. with 2 attorneys and a thick binder of prepared testimony about improved digital archiving systems and enhanced security protocols. He wore a gray suit and an American flag pin and looked like someone who expected softball questions about bureaucratic efficiency. Kennedy arrived at 1:06 p.m. carrying a single accordion file folder stuffed so full that papers were sticking out the edges. He sat in his usual position and did not ask a single question for the first 41 minutes, while other senators let Patel recite statistics about processing times and storage capacity improvements. Then the chairman recognized Kennedy. He opened the accordion folder and pulled out a stapled document maybe 30 pages thick. Mr. Patel, you served as Chief of Staff to the Acting Secretary of Defense from 2020 to 2021, correct? Patel nodded. That is correct, Senator. And in that role, you had oversight responsibility for evidence management related to ongoing DOJ investigations that intersected with DOD equities, correct? In certain cases, yes. Including the Jeffrey Epstein investigation? Patel's posture shifted slightly. The Epstein investigation involved multiple agencies. DOD had limited involvement. Limited, but documented. Your office received custody of certain Epstein materials that were seized from locations with DOD connections. Is that accurate? I would need to review specific transfer records to confirm. Kennedy held up the document. I have the transfer records right here. On August 23, 2019, DOJ transferred 437 boxes of evidence to DOD secure storage at Fort Meade. The transfer was signed by a DOJ evidence custodian and received by your office. Do you recall that transfer? Patel looked at his attorneys. They whispered briefly. He turned back. I recall that DOD provided secure storage for certain classified materials related to multiple investigations. I am not asking about multiple investigations. I am asking about 437 boxes of Epstein evidence. Do you recall receiving them? If you have made it this far and this matters to you, subscribe now and hit the bell, because what comes next Is Kennedy proving those 437 boxes no longer exist, and Patel has no explanation? Patel's voice was careful. I recall that we received materials for secure storage. The specific contents would have been managed by evidence specialists. But you signed for them. Your signature is on the custody transfer form acknowledging receipt of 437 boxes containing Epstein investigation materials. Do you deny that? I do not deny signing custody forms. That was part of my administrative duties. Good. Then let me ask you about what happened to those boxes. Kennedy flipped to another page. On June 12, 2023, a federal judge ordered the unsealing of certain Epstein files. DOJ requested return of materials from DoD storage to comply with the court order. Are you aware of that request? I was no longer at DoD in 2023, but the materials were still there in storage at Fort Meade under protocols you established. When DOJ requested return of the 437 boxes, what did they receive? Patel hesitated. I would not have direct knowledge of 2023 transfers. Then let me tell you what they received. 0 boxes. None. When DOD went to retrieve the Epstein materials, they were gone. All 437 boxes. Vanished. Kennedy looked up from the document. Where did they go, Mr. Patel? Patel's face had gone pale. I cannot speak to storage operations that occurred after my tenure. But you can speak to storage operations during your tenure. When was the last time those boxes were inventoried while you were in charge? I would need to check inventory logs. I have the inventory logs. Kennedy pulled another document. Last verified inventory, November 17, 2020. All 437 boxes accounted for and sealed. Next inventory, March 8, 2021. Result, 437 boxes missing. He paused. March 8, 2021. You were still Chief of Staff. The boxes disappeared on your watch. What happened to them? Patel's hands gripped the table. Storage facilities undergo periodic reorganization. Boxes may have been relocated. Relocated where? To alternate secure storage. Name the facility. I do not have that information available. You do not know where 437 boxes of Epstein evidence were relocated to? The specific location would be documented in storage transfer logs. There are no storage transfer logs. I checked. There is no record of those boxes being moved anywhere. They simply disappeared. Patel looked at his attorneys again. One of them leaned forward to whisper. Kennedy spoke before they could finish. Mr. Patel, do not confer with counsel on this. This is a factual question. Were those boxes transferred to another location or not? Patel turned back. My understanding is that they were moved as part of a facilities consolidation. Based on what? Based on briefings I received at the time. From whom? From facilities management personnel. Names. I do not recall specific names. You do not recall who told you that 437 boxes of evidence in the highest profile case in decades were being moved. It was 4 years ago. Drop a comment right now if you think Patel is telling the truth about not remembering because Kennedy is about to prove he is lying. Kennedy pulled yet another document. Let me help your memory. This is an email from March 2nd, 2021, 6 days before the inventory that discovered the boxes missing. The email is from you to the Fort Meade Facilities Director. Subject line, Urgent, Evidence Storage Protocols. Should I read it? Patel's jaw tightened. I do not recall that specific email. Let me read it anyway. Quote, effective immediately, all materials related to case file 2019-CR-453, that is the Epstein case number, are to be moved to off-site storage pending further review. This transfer is to be completed within 72 hours with minimal documentation. Confirm receipt of this directive. End quote. Kennedy looked up. You ordered the boxes moved with minimal documentation. Does that refresh your memory? Patel's voice was shaking. That email, if authentic, was part of standard evidence management procedures. Standard procedures require minimal documentation? In cases involving classified materials, documentation is sometimes limited for security reasons. These boxes were not classified. They were sealed by court order, which is different, and your email says nothing about classification. It says minimal documentation. Why? I cannot speak to the reasoning 4 years later. Cannot or will not. Patel did not answer. A senator from Vermont jumped in. Mr. Patel, did anyone authorize you to move those boxes? Patel turned toward the senator. I had authority over evidence storage in my role as Chief of Staff. Authority to move evidence, yes, but did anyone specifically authorize you to move Epstein evidence? I do not recall a specific authorization. So you decided on your own to move 437 boxes of evidence in the nation's most high-profile investigation? I decided to implement a storage consolidation plan. Where were the boxes consolidated to? Patel looked back at Kennedy. As I stated, I do not have access to transfer records from that period. Kennedy spoke. That is because there are no transfer records. Your email ordered minimal documentation, and there is no documentation, which means we have no idea where those boxes went. Subscribe now, because what happens in the next 90 seconds is Kennedy revealing that the boxes were not just moved, they were destroyed. Kennedy flipped to another document. Mr. Patel, let me read you another email. This one is from March 10, 2021, 2 days after the missing inventory. It is from the Fort Meade Facilities Director to you. Quote, all materials per your directive have been transferred to disposal contractor as instructed. Certificate of destruction attached, confirming zero retention per your order. End quote. Kennedy set the document down. Certificate of destruction. You did not move those boxes. You had them destroyed. Patel stood up. That is a complete mischaracterization. Is it? The email says disposal contractor. It says certificate of destruction. It says zero retention. What part am I mischaracterizing? Those terms refer to standard records disposal procedures for duplicative materials. These were not duplicative materials. These were original evidence boxes. Photographs that do not exist anywhere else. Videos that were not digitized. Financial documents with handwritten notes. All of it original. All of it destroyed on your order. Patel's voice rose. I never ordered destruction of evidence. You ordered transfer to a disposal contractor with zero retention. That is the definition of destruction. That email is being taken out of context. What context makes certificate of destruction mean something other than destruction? Patel sat back down. He did not answer. Kennedy continued. Let me ask you directly. Did you order the destruction of 437 boxes of Epstein evidence? No. Did you order their transfer to a disposal contractor? Patel paused. I ordered transfer of materials I was told were duplicative. Who told you they were duplicative? Staff briefed me that the materials had been digitized. All 437 boxes had been digitized? That was my understanding. Based on what? Based on briefings from evidence management staff. Did you verify that claim? I relied on subject matter experts. Did any subject matter expert show you proof that 437 boxes had been digitized? I do not recall seeing proof. Did you ask for proof? I relied on their professional judgment. Their professional judgment that it was safe to destroy original evidence in a federal investigation? I did not know they were destroying evidence. I thought they were disposing of duplicates. Kennedy leaned forward. Mr. Patel, let me make sure I understand. You ordered transfer of 437 boxes with minimal documentation. You were told they were duplicates. You never verified that claim. And now the boxes are gone and cannot be recovered. Is that accurate? Patel nodded slowly. That appears to be what happened. Appears to be? That is what happened, and it happened 1 week before a federal judge ordered those files unsealed. The room went completely silent. Every journalist was typing. Every camera was focused on Patel. Kennedy pulled one final document. Let me read you the timeline. March 2nd, you send the email ordering transfer with minimal documentation. March 4th, the court schedules a hearing on unsealing the files. March 8th, the boxes are discovered missing. March 10th, the destruction certificate is issued. March 11th, the judge orders the files unsealed. March 12th, DOJ notifies the court that the files cannot be produced because they were destroyed. Kennedy looked at Patel. That is not a coincidence. That is obstruction. Patel's attorneys both leaned forward. One spoke. Senator, my client disputes any suggestion of intentional obstruction. Kennedy did not look at the attorney. Your client ordered destruction of evidence 1 week before a court ordered it unsealed. What would you call that? The attorney tried again. Poor timing and miscommunication. Poor timing? The evidence disappeared exactly when it became legally required to produce it. That is not poor timing. That is criminal timing. Patel spoke. Senator, I had no knowledge of the pending court order when I authorized the transfer. You were chief of staff at DOD. You had access to every legal briefing. You expect this committee to believe you did not know a major Epstein unsealing was scheduled. I was not personally briefed on court schedules. But your office was, and somehow in the same week the unsealing was scheduled, you decided to dispose of evidence with minimal documentation. Do you see how that looks? Patel stared at the table. I see how it looks, but that is not what happened. Then tell me what happened. I made a mistake. I trusted staff who told me the materials were duplicative. I authorized a transfer without proper verification, and the materials were lost. Lost? They were not lost. They were destroyed on purpose with a certificate. I did not intend for that to happen, but it did happen under your authority, on your order, with your signature. Patel did not respond. The chairman asked if there were additional questions. A senator from Texas asked one more. Mr. Patel, have you faced any disciplinary action for this incident? Patel shook his head. I left DOD shortly after. Before anyone investigated the missing boxes? There was no investigation at the time. Why?